everybody. Welcome to episode 1078 of FloWrestling Radio Live. Piles, what a show we have for you today. To my right, JD, James Dean Rader.
Hello, hello.
He's right out of the tree stand and broadcasting to your homes. Mr. Real Tree himself. To the left.
It's Mossy Oak. Shout out Brent Metcalf, the Mossy Oak Monster.
That's right. And Spay, fresh from his, he's off of his hunting trip in Hawaii.
Yeah.
He was hunting boar.
Hunting for fun.
Hunting for fun.
And I found it.
And he found it. And to the left, Tyler Meisinger is here. Hello, Tyler. I won't demean you in any way in this introduction.
Wow, thank you.
Just nothing came to my mind at that moment in time. Man, we have a ton to get to today. I mean, All-Star Classic preview. We'll talk about the Starocci Keckeisen matchup and among others. But the news of the day, two things really. Gabel Steveson, Marcus Blaze to Penn State. JD, you make the call. Where are we starting, brother?
It's got to be Gable. Two-time Hodge Trophy winner, Olympic gold medalist. He's returning to NCAA wrestling. I don't even know where to start. What does this mean? Why now? How now? Et cetera, et cetera.
How now, brown cow? I mean, it's, at Worlds, someone suggested to me, and because I hadn't been hearing anything about Gable. And so, they said, hey, I think he's coming back. I was like, oh, interesting, noted. And then you started to hear a little bit more in the last week that, hey, he does, in fact, want to come back to college wrestling. And then it happened faster than I thought it would. And they announced yesterday in a really cool video put together well by Minnesota, basically announcing that he's returning to college wrestling, one last ride. And for, there's a lot of different avenues you can go on talking about Gable, but, I'm just someone that genuinely loves and enjoys watching Gable wrestle. I think he's just a one of one. We've never seen anything like him at the heavyweight division. I haven't personally. And, every time Gable wrestles a match, you have to wonder if it's the last time you'll watch him wrestle because you don't really know. We didn't know, when he, after he won the Olympics, he took some time off and then he wrestled at NCAAs, but then didn't pursue world teams. And then he comes back for the U.S. Open, kind of a surprise thing, wins Final X, then doesn't. So trying to predict Gable is difficult. So, I am looking at this like, hey, this could be the last time we see Gable wrestle. I don't think this necessarily implies a return to the freestyle mat. Obviously it could, but there's obviously other pools, and Gable has quickly gravitated towards other pools that are non-wrestling in the past. He tried WWE, NFL. He's been training with John Jones, MMA. I think that is a pretty logical step.
I heard that could be the next step after this year.
And that makes sense, right? That was the one thing, in my pleading over the years for this has been a theme on FRL since like 21 or 20, like Gable stay in wrestling. And my main thing is like, man, just stay, because the WWE rumors are out there, and that's where, Ben did the whole bit and making fun of me for not liking wrestling, fake wrestling. I was like, no, man. I'm like, it's not, well, yes, I don't like it. That is true. But that is irrelevant to my broader point that is Gable is a one-of-one talent athlete, and I want him to use those talents in that thing, not acting, and not really necessarily NFL. If that had worked out, great. But like wrestling or MMA both make a lot of sense to me because it just, you can capitalize on this incredible skill that he's developed and talent. And so that's what I want to see. I think that, and separate from that, just my own selfish desires, I think that does make the most sense for Gable professionally to stay in those sort of avenues, wrestling or MMA, because I think that just better suits his skill set. So I'm excited to see it. It was funny because yesterday at the club and then at home, everyone's like, is this real? Is Gable coming back? And Katie, my wife, she's like, Gable's coming back? I'm like, yeah, he is. She goes, did he just ruin a bunch of kids' lives today? I'm like, kind of. Because it is, he is a hope extinguisher. Like, you can talk yourselves into other guys, and Greg Kerfley's a national champion, but you can't convince me that Gable is not the number one favorite to win NCAAs this year as a result of this. And he just He moved everyone down the podium one spot in my mind. Doesn't make it reality, but that's how I look
Probably
at
fair.
it. And it's
Yeah, I'm there with you. He's a guy. He also in his matches in his career, he doesn't take a lot of damage. He doesn't have a lot of wear and tear. He's probably as fresh as he's ever been. Taking the time off at NFL, I don't think he got those training camps. They usually aren't too grueling. I mean, there's definitely some contact.
What do
or
you
whatever,
know about it?
I've watched a lot of football.
Yeah, I've watched Hard Knocks for years.
And so, yeah, I have nothing but the highest expectations for him this year. I would not be surprised if he wins a third Hodge.
Why now versus a year ago? Or
I think a year ago he was still trying to do WWE. That was still what he was focused on. I think he wanted to give that his best run, right? And I think, this is me reading tea leaves, not knowing anything on the inside, but I don't know if the WWE, I'm pretty sure when you work for them, they want your sole focus. So if you're doing the college thing and the other thing, freestyle, like maybe they don't like that as much. And so I think he was just giving that his 100% focus and didn't work out, whatever. It's fine. I mean, shout out to him for trying. And then so now it's, hey, okay, it's the next thing. And then so it was NFL. And now I think he didn't make an NFL team. So now it's kind of wrestling's what's left for this year. And also, undeniably, Gable's going to get well-earned compensation for this choice. How much? I don't know, but it's not going to be insignificant.
Yeah, and that was a question that came up is, why is he going back to college? What's all that? And a lot of people are used to, and this was the thing for forever, 4 years, maybe you take a redshirt year in there, and that's it. And then there's no more. But now, not only is eligibility loosened up a little bit, the NCAA doesn't seem to be as strict or whatever, but now there's the hugest incentive in that you're going to make a really good salary, basically, or your 4 months of work.
he shout out to him for using the Olympic red shirt loophole we pointed out.
And not attempting to make the Olympics.
What a crazy what?
That's where, like, maybe at one point in time in the past, the NCAA or somebody would have policed that a little bit harder. But I just got to imagine the NCAA is just hands off now, like, for stuff like that.
At least, you know what? I will write I think there should be a special dispensation if you've won the Olympics. No matter what your attempt. Yeah, he didn't try, but he's literally won the tournament. So,
and you could always, I mean, there's always the thing of like, all right, well, he was planning on doing it, and then other stuff came,
Oh, I got hurt.
This will be funny. All the Olympic red shirt haters, now you can say, these people say, no one has won the Olympics, taken an Olympic red shirt, or ever made a team. Now we can say, Gable Steveson is an Olympic champion who took an Olympic red shirt.
True.
Those two things are
undeniable.
True. The order, irrelevant.
That's right. I saw a decent amount of actually pushback.
Yeah.
On this towards Gable, maybe people being fed up with the teasing of is he coming back? Is he not? People just maybe sad that this is almost now a coronation of the heavyweight title. Or were you surprised by the pushback?
Not totally, because it's been there I've seen it in the comments about Gable when it's been teased and he comes back, and but I think these are people that are not. Here's what I'll say: you can feel how you want to feel about it, but you can't tell me you love watching wrestling and then be upset that Gable Steveson is wrestling, because this is not some plotter, boring winner of matches. This is a one-of-one point scoring machine the heavyweight class has never seen. I'll say it and I'll say it and I'll say it. There's never been anything like Gable at the heavyweight division. And so I don't really, I can get on I actually don't get it, but I'm not surprised to see it. But you can't love wrestling and watching wrestling and not appreciate. That's why, like, Iowa fans, I think it's and I'm sure some Iowa fans are not pumped about this. I'm not saying all Iowa fans are so psyched that they gave this guy a standing ovation. Like, appreciators of wrestling, you can't be anything but excited that you get to watch this guy again. Because once again, this could be it. This could be it.
If you're a fan of one specific team, and maybe that one specific team has a really, really good heavyweight, then I could see saying, is this really necessary? Is it really allowed? And then getting some pushback.
That same team has a guy wrestling for a 5th NCAA title. Like it's.
I don't know who you're talking about. I didn't identify any teams.
There are no rules anymore. It's all good. I think it's great, and I think there's plenty of Penn State fans that are psyched. He's not psyched. Yeah, and I'm not mad at you if you're like not pumped, if you're a Greg Kirkfleet fan or a Feldman or whoever. But like at the end of the day, you gotta it's a cool thing to watch this guy.
Yeah, just go watch some highlights. He's amazing.
Very cool. I will say if I get my pick of he comes back to college wrestling or senior level, it's obviously senior level.
All day, because you know why? All I want to do is see Gabel Steveson humiliate Amir Zare in front of everyone.
This is the biggest Zare hater in the world.
No, that doesn't make me a hater. That's just what I want to see.
What will
Well, you hate
do?
Zare, so does Tyler.
What will you? I don't hate Zara. What the hell? Don't put that in my mouth. I never said anything about Zara.
Take that out of
The
his
way-
mouth.
the way- the
Take it
way-
out.
The way he wrestles. I'm sorry.
The way he wrestles is not fun to watch. I definitely agree with that.
You
What will you
lied.
do?
Never mind. I'm not even gonna say that story.
What will you do if Zare wrestles Gable and pushes him out 5 times and wins like 5-0 or something?
I actually, driving in today, I was thinking about this. Like, if he comes back to freestyle, I was like, Zare. I was like, what if he were to lose to Zare? And it's like, your mind goes crazy places sometimes. That's a crazy place to go. It would change my entire brain about how I think about wrestling if Zare was able to beat Gable Steveson. It would be one of those. It would be a wrestling trauma that I would never fully recover from, because it goes so, in my mind, it goes so against what like wrestling is about versus what Zare does, which is, he literally, and this is not just my opinion, this is the opinion of the best. This guy doesn't do anything. He is a single-threaded. He's just the antithesis of skillfulness in my mind. He has crafted a style that is successful. There's no denying he's successful, and he has dominated many Americans and many international guys. But I don't like how it looks, and if it happened to Gable Steveson, it would break my mind.
I think if Gable Stevenson's not having a good day, he does not beat Zare.
He
Remember, this is a man who needed to be stood up to win an Olympic gold medal.
He messed around and won that Olympic gold. If you actually watch that match, he's on his way to teching him. They took 4 points off the board for him, and then he went a little off script, a little jazz, he went a little improv.
That's just dumb. Play the right notes.
There's no wrong notes, and so he got gutted because at the end it all resolved, and it resolved with 2 takedowns in 13 seconds.
What I am saying is, Gable's the favorite, and I think would beat Zare, but I think he needs to train to beat Zare. I don't think
That's also where you're wrong.
I don't think he can roll up after being on Bill's Mafia for 2 months and then training with John Jones for a month and beat Zare.
Well, what you don't understand is that this is also Bill's Mafia if he makes the senior world team.
Yeah, Bill's Mafia. to
Bill's
the
Addicts
Olympics.
Mafia.
No, this is
Multiple Bills Mafia.
okay. There you go.
See? Now you don't know what to do. No, I don't think he needs his best day. I don't think he needs he needs to not be horribly injured.
That is an audacious take.
This guy, all these guys, listen, the Iranian track record is kind of clear right now.
Do you think
they cannot win
if they
big
wrestle
matches.
tomorrow, Gable Steveson beats
Absolutely.
Zare?
Absolutely.
You don't?
I'm not so sure.
Oh my gosh.
Bro, I'm
How much actual wrestling training has this man been doing for the past?
I don't care.
I don't care
I don't
either.
care.
Are you
This is
serious?
a guy.
He's so good.
Do you think this is open? This is not like a secret. Do you think Gable Steveson was like a 5 days a week on the mat guy? This is a guy who is super strategic. He is not. This is not a guy that needs to be on the mat every single day. He's far from it. There's
a difference between being on the mat 3 or 4 days a week and 3 or 4 times in a several month span.
That would be plenty for Zare.
You would think, but I mean, he freaking came out of retirement to make the world
Oh,
team last year. Like, how often was he?
Yeah, well,
training
no
back
offense,
then?
but there's a difference between Mason Paris and Zare.
Mason pinned him.
Mason, not a big one. It's not a big.
Mason was a world bronze that year.
It's we can move off this. It's not a match in my mind.
I think I still will leave out like some decent percentage that Zare gets the better at
Not
Gable.
decent, but
I don't know, 3 to 5%.
I think that like you see Geno was able to exploit one moment and almost like tech Zare.
Here's the thing:
And-
gut wrench.
how-
Ari would just fall down in front of him. He would not know what to do. He's not gonna get pushed around like that.
Yeah, I have a hard time with how I've never seen a heavyweight with the side-to-side motion that Gable has.
It's unreal.
And with that, I don't think that Zara can employ his game plan against Gable the way he can against other heavyweights.
No one's bullied Gable since he was like 19.
Yeah.
Hasn't happened.
Like I said,
Many have tried.
Gable for sure favorite. They roll up tomorrow. I don't know.
He matches up better against Zari than Geno.
Sure.
I think that's fair. I think Gable is a bad matchup for Zare because of Zare's style and how his feet are able to move.
We have to make this match happen.
Yeah.
Gable.
Geno also not retired.
What?
He's not retired.
I mean,
Oh, Taha retired. Yeah.
yeah.
Good point.
Geno's still there, man.
Yeah.
So that's he probably a tougher matchup for Gable than Zare is.
All right, round robin. Make it so.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
all right, Gable. All we have to do is convince that man to continue to wrestle. Not an easy task.
Avery says, I agree with JD. Zare will win. So
I did not
just so
say
you know-
Zara.
You're giving off that vibe.
Wow.
You're planting all these seeds.
Comrade Raider, and
He
then
said in all caps, JV, I'm with you. So that's a side.
Y'all are
going on.
crazy.
USA Hater Raider is back.
Oh my
I guess.
gosh. He would he'd massacre.
You're crazy. All right. But the other big news of yesterday, I guess this morning, Marcus Blaze to Penn State.
Yeah, Brighton early announcement for Marcus Blaze from the Perrysburg room. And, we'll get into the decision and other stuff related to the decision. But, man, it's what Penn State's got down low with. You got Luke Littledown, now you have Marcus Blaze. It's interesting. And I think one other thing with Marcus in this decision, it's like it was really late, but it's signing day. It's like, back in the day, this would not be late. This would be like normal. This is when Mark Hall announced he was going to Penn State.
Did it the old school way too, with the desk and.
I know he's an old soul. I feel in a lot of ways. Had to be a really hard decision. He's an Ohio kid. He trains at Ohio State consistently. Did he push it down so he could train there more? Maybe. I mean, the guy's got a goal of being as good as he can at wrestling, and training with Ohio State's going to help him do that for right now. But the decision to wrestle at Penn State, I think it's it really says something that's been said many times before, but just like the lengths and the what people will do to go to Penn State is, I mean, Marcus Blaze is a lifelong Ohio State fan. There's pictures of him throughout his childhood. Ohio State, Ohio State, Ohio State. Ohio State is one of, bar none, the best programs in the entire sport. And he went to Penn State. And if that doesn't paint the picture for how the best of the best are viewing Coach Kale and company and what they've built there, that just, it screams loud. And it's like, I talk about like Gable, like, creating hopelessness, like stuff like this for these other teams and coaches. Like, man, how do you
it's a dagger.
It's a dagger. It's a dagger. There's no two ways about it. And, what could Ohio State have done differently? Probably not much. I mean, yeah. I'm sure. I mean, they're great recruiters. They get great recruiting classes. But Penn State made Marcus a targeted priority, and they got him. And we'd been hearing this. Tyler and I heard this at the Olympic trials.
Yeah.
You kind of poo-pooed that, but
Yeah, I mean, well, I didn't poo-poo.
there was poo.
Well, I poo-pooed it because like
least
they
one
were
poo.
saying that a year ago, or I guess it wasn't a year ago. It was 6 months ago,
April.
whatever it was. Feels like 2 years ago, and
Yeah.
he still like hadn't made any decision.
Yeah, and maybe
he did.
Maybe it hadn't been made then, or maybe just not publicly. I don't know.
I mean, he's still throughout the whole summer was training at other schools.
Yeah,
So
true.
This really shows where wrestling as a team sport butts into wrestling as an individual sport, because when any endeavor that any individual thing, whether it's a musician, an athlete, an artist, whatever, you want to be the best you can possibly be, and you want to go seek out the masters and seek out the people that you want to learn from. You go to the best of the best, and there's no one would say like, oh, why are you training under that musician or something to be the best violinist or whatever. You just go seek out the best, and this is what happens in wrestling. You seek out what Cale Sanderson has done at that gym. to be the best. And it's tough because in other team sports, you don't see this type of thing. No one goes, you can't be a good football player if you don't go to Alabama.
Yeah.
Like it's just not going to be that
do
way.
it everywhere.
There are lots of schools that produce NFL talent and basketball and all those other team sports. But for individual wrestling, it concentrates the talent a little bit more naturally just as an individual sport. And it's tough for other teams. And you know, as fans, as not, you know, we're fans of what Penn State is doing, and we're fans of those athletes and those coaches, but we're not the diehard individual team fans. I think most of us are pretty objective. I mean, I know you got Michigan and everything, but you do want to see a little bit more parity just as a general wrestling fan. You do want to see other fan bases have more hope and that kind of thing, but you can't, I certainly can't hate that a guy like Marcus Blaze is going to Penn State. It makes too much sense.
One thing I forgot to ask when we were talking about Gable that I just thought of. Gable goes undefeated, wins. Carter Starocci or Parker Keckeisen goes undefeated, wins, you know, with good bonus rate. They double Hodge?
Triple Hodge.
I don't know. I will evaluate when all the numbers need to be out there to really know. In terms of quality
Wouldn't
of
be
competition.
Gable's first double Hodge.
No, he said to share it in the past. Gable can share.
We're going quad Hodge. There'll be 4 winners.
Yeah.
All right. That was kind of the big news of the past couple days. Do we want to get into the
Well, yeah. So
weekend ahead?
Well, no. Also related, you know, there's other like down impacts with Marcus. Like what I've been thinking, what we've been talking about. Like, all right, what does this mean necessarily for Jax and Bo?
Yeah.
How do they necessarily fit? Is there an impact there for those guys as they look at to you know, obviously Penn State is going to be in the mix for both of them, and I feel like the more I've thought about it, I feel like it could be an impact for Jax because it's hard to see, you know. It feels like the weights where Jax is likely to occupy. You got Luke and you've got Marcus already there, so it could create some friction. But for Bo, I feel like probably not as much of an impact there because he's probably likely a 49-pounder. Now there could be down the line. Is there a 65 overlap? But overlap's kind of the name of the game at Penn State anyway.
How much of a – I don't think those two are necessarily a pack issue, but how much do you think them wanting to be together in college influences their decision?
I wonder if they – yeah. I don't know. My opinion is in the early stages of recruiting, guys fantasize about, hey, let's go to the same team. How cool would it be? And then I think reality sets in, and it's not always as smooth as it is because if one guy wants to go to one school and it's the best fit for him, if it's not the best fit for the other guy that's also a blue chip, that's when it diverges. And we've seen this in the past with guys that these guys are linked in their package deal, and then they're not, right? And
Marcus Blaze just stabbed his brother in the back.
don't say that.
A little harsh.
Yeah, don't say
I'm joking.
I know, but yeah. So, I don't think while I think if they could say, hey, if we went to the same school, that'd be cool. I don't think that's something that
It doesn't play a big factor.
It's not on the top
Yeah.
5 reasons they're going to go to a given school. In my opinion, I just think that's the case. I mean, they were saying, hey, should we go with Drayshawn Ross? All of us go together. Like these things don't.
I don't think they're going to occupy the same weight.
They could.
Mostly.
They could grow Bassett. That'll be his name.
Whoa.
Wow.
Wow.
Tweet that one. Also related to the Marcus Blaze situation, there was definitely, well, actually I say definitely, but there was an error yesterday where an article about Marcus announcing his recruitment or his announcement, the announcement about the announcement, which was coming today, had the word State College in it, and that was an obvious mistake where it sort of revealed that Marcus would be going to Penn State, something that we had learned, and it's part of our, one thing that happens is we try to be prepared as we can, and mistakes happen, and this was just a mistake, and a very obvious mistake. We were not. If you look at the article, the obvious intent of the article is to reveal that Marcus is announcing where he's going today. Okay, that's obvious, and that the word State College in there were also obviously a mistake. And it was corrected in 10 minutes. There was, at that time, 100 to 200 page views on the article which it's a mistake and is not good, and something that is really between, for us, it's between, the parties involved with the article and Marcus and his family. And that's where that's being cleaned up and been communicated with the Blaze family. Separate of that, so that's, that was a mistake, right? Not good. Mistakes happen. It was obviously not our intent to announce it, because we could have done what other podcasts did and said, hey, yeah, he's going to Penn State. That was already out there last week. There were other podcasts saying he's going there. And obviously we had that intel as well. We didn't have it from the Blazes or anyone connected to Perrysburg or Penn State, but we had it too. And obviously the plan was to keep it under wraps the entire time. And that didn't quite happen. And but separate from that, and where I'm, a little bit of a hip check here, it's like, so there was a loud reaction on Twitter about this, and you look on other channels and it wasn't really there. And what was so frustrating about that yesterday is no one feels worse about that than us. But then the people that want a white knight about our mistake, they're more excited that Flo made a mistake and amplifying that. Meanwhile, the whole point that they're up in arms about is that we ruined Marcus's moment. Well, a couple hundred people saw it, and now 100,000 people see it because you guys want to have a white knight Twitter moment. And that is what is so annoying. It's like, wait, y'all don't actually care. You don't let's just call it what it is. You don't care about Marcus's moment. You care about any opportunity you get, and I've seen it for years and years and years. Any opportunity, some of these, it's a small number of people, get to hang Flo out to dry. You're going to do that over anything. So even if it means further revealing Marcus's intent, where it would have been a couple hundred people and maybe the screenshot gets texted around social media amplify, and that's the nature, and that's the nature of the business, right? I'm not at all surprised that it happened because I've seen it happen. But all the white knights on Twitter, they're up in arms that tweeted about it, made it such a loud moment about how we messed up. Just to also admit that it was more important for you to dunk on Flo than to preserve Marcus's moment. So that is also true.
If you actually cared about not ruining, quote unquote, the moment, then you would wait until today to tell us that we suck and we're bad at our jobs and we should be fired. And by all means, let us have it. We regret the error. We took the responsible party out back in the alley earlier and beat the crap out of him as punishment. So that's as bloodthirsty as we're getting. If you want more damage than that, you leave it. You got to be a vigilante on your own.
Yeah, y'all are, we're handling it. This is not.
It wasn't a fun thing hurting a friend like that, but it had to be done. Justice had to be meted out.
No, but I mean, it's like we're handling it with the actual parties involved.
Being serious, yeah.
The Blaze crew, that not, the Twitter white knights. So that's all I wanted to say about that.
You said your piece?
I said my piece.
My piece, Chrissy. Yes.
Disgusting.
Yeah, no, it's definitely regrettable. I mean, it sucks. We do feel bad.
It's kind of crazy. Honestly, it like never happens.
Yeah.
We have every major story in wrestling has been in draft mode before it happened since I've worked here. And I guess it happened. It was a mistake.
Do you think Bo Batchelor feels bad about dropping Nebraska from his recruiting list this morning?
Listen, the content game waits for no one, and he has to feed the machine, and so someone's got to go.
Yeah, why he shouldn't feel bad about anything. He's going to narrow it down to one at some point.
Yeah, at some point, everyone's sad but one.
Some big dogs are starting to get clipped.
Yeah, that's for sure. Nebraska's a big dog. Bo eliminated them from the list.
Yeah. Now everyone that was hating on, you just put literally every D1 team, that's dumb. Oh, that's just a big, you just want attention. Okay, well now you're going to pay attention because now this is serious.
It's good. It's important. So yeah, it's notable, but it feels like we're all waiting for it to get to those big four. I think we know who those are going to be. I think we know. We'll see what's actually.
Get an article in draft mode and get ready to.
Yeah.
UPJ making a miracle run?
Yeah.
Potentially?
That would be a huge, man. I'm just thinking, just a story just in and of itself.
All right, let's talk a little All-Star Classic.
Let's do.
Because maybe the biggest event of the entire month is going down Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern is when it starts. We'll have 5 women's matches, D2 versus D3 matchup, and then the 10 D1 matches. We're going to talk Carter Starocci. Let's just start there. It's the biggest match.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's get to it. Carter Starocci versus Parker Keckeisen.
So I think I've told you guys, I've talked a lot about like my difficulty in handicapping and prognosticating this match because on the one hand, I watch Parker's point scoring ability and I can't do anything but marvel at what he did last year and just how, someone as good as Dustin Plott and all the other wrestlers he faced, and he really made all of them look steps behind him, right? And then you have Carter Starocci, who our last kind of memory is him gutting out really, really close wins with an injury, a serious injury. And, we've seen in the past, Carter can be a dominator, but Carter can also, in big matches, he is a master of tactics and a great competitor. So when it comes to someone like Parker Keckeisen, you wonder, is he going to be able to generate the points? And then the more I thought about it and talking with other people and talking with, higher level wrestling minds than myself, it's like, hey, this is likely going to come down to who can best execute their down block re-attack game. Okay. And now this evaluation, this prediction is not related to who I think is actually better at that skill, which may be one of the top skills you can have as a wrestler, especially in NCAA today. It's more about opportunity. And Parker is just going to attack more. Would we agree with this? In all likelihood,
that is the most likely scenario.
Parker is going to take more leg attacks than Carter Starocci. That's just what I expect. Will it be true? We'll find out Saturday. And if that is true, that just gives Carter more opportunities to score than I think Carter is going to give him. So if you believe that's what it comes down to, which it's kind of what I believe, then I think Parker is just going to give a couple more opportunities than Carter's going to give him. And I think the percentages are so close. I think opportunity is what it comes down to. And so for that reason, I think Carter gets it done at the All-Star Classic. But it could play out completely differently. We could see a volume attacking Carter Starocci, and that plays into Keckeisen's game. They're both so good at it. And that's not to say that Parker can't straight up generate leg attack offense and take him down. He can. He has. He did. But I wanted to make a decision. I don't know what's going to happen, obviously, but that's my read on it right now.
I've gone back and forth on who I think is going to win. I thought Carter, because he's got that X factor winning. And then I think about, well, sometimes in freestyle he doesn't win. And he loses to people I believe are on a comparable level to Parker Keckeisen. So then I flip back and I go, Parker Keckeisen. And I don't know exactly which side of the fence I sit on now.
I mean, he lost to Trent, Trent lost to Parker.
Yeah.
Yeah, transitive
sure.
right there. Yeah.
It's freestyle. Carter was off the injury. I mean, how about Carter competing? That was kind of crazy.
Yeah, almost going down to 74 too, right?
Yeah. He was like on the way down. He's like, well, this isn't going to happen. Yeah. Forget that idea.
Yeah. I think there'll be a couple things that I think will help, tell us how it goes. Obviously, the more of the match that happens, the closer you get to an actual conclusion and a result. But I'm going to be looking for in the first period, like you said, if Keckeisen is going to be taking a lot of shots and if he converts on those. I think if he gets a takedown or two in the first period, that's huge, obviously. But that's just going to show that on neutral, Keckeisen can get to those attacks. And then the first time Parker goes underneath, if Starocci can get that right out, he's so stingy on top. He's so good at keeping guys down that get out against everybody else. If Parker can get out quickly, I think that bodes well too. But Starocci is not without his attacks in neutral either. So, man, it's super tough. Do we have to make picks now?
No, we don't have to make picks. I was just giving my opinion.
Finish this sentence though.
Yeah.
To win, Parker Keckeisen must blank, and to win, Carter Starocci must blank.
Score more
what
points.
Does each
To win, Parker, he's got to generate a takedown. He's going to have to have a good setup, take him down.
It seems like there's a scenario where Carter Starocci wins and there's no takedowns
That's the thing.
in the match, but there's no scenario where Parker Keckeisen wins and a takedown in the match did not occur.
Carter-
At least one.
Carter could win a 2022 All-Star type of match where it's just a riding time. I mean, and that's crazy because, like, who rides Parker? But,
Right.
you know, I think he is a unique sort of he just has a really special skill set in terms of riding, in terms of just overall crafting game plans. So, Carter, what must Carter do? I don't know.
I think if he amasses a good amount of riding time advantage,
Not give up 2 takedowns.
and then and Parker needs to get to his takedown. Needs to finish, because you can get to Carter's legs, but if he can cleanly finish, because
The only thing I am would be surprised of that happens is if we come away from this match knowing with almost 100% certainty the same result will happen
In March. Yep.
I think it will be a close match, and even if one guy really controls this, which I feel like if that happens, it's probably going to be Carter. If somebody comes away with a definitive, yes, this person is 100% better, but I still feel like we'll come away going, the loser can make 1 or 2 adjustments, and this is a different ball game come March.
One thing that I think has clouded some people's judgment, I don't know if we talked about this on the show, is Carter and Aaron are so linked that I think people think they're the same. And you see what Aaron did to Parker, and you just naturally attribute it that Carter will. And they are not the same. Aaron Brooks is an Olympic bronze medalist. He is a different cat. And while they're both winners at the highest levels of college wrestling we've ever seen, they're different. And the problems that they present are very, very different.
Does that have to do with anything that Aaron Carter threw the party of the year?
Aaron Carter.
R.I.P.
I don't know. I don't think it's related to that.
No way to know for sure.
Yeah. So, I think that is what has people just like sort of, and it's obviously Penn State fans, but I think even the wrestling community at large is kind of Carter next topicing this, and I don't think they understand how competitive this is going to be. Scoreless first period favors who?
Carter.
I agree.
Yeah, but not by much.
Yeah.
It could be one of those.
You might get away right away. We just don't know.
Yeah, that's where I feel like that riding time thing is going to be a difference maker. If we can get it over a minute, I don't know. That could be it, but that's really like, predicting some minute details of a match that has a lot of possibilities.
There's no way. Like, Carter's going to be a full-size 184.
He's going to look big.
Yeah, there's no scenario where I think strength or weight plays an issue.
He didn't look smaller than Trent Hidley when they wrestled.
Yeah,
in
which is
86.
insane. It was a couple weeks after NCAAs, and Trent was a big 97. And, I think he's going to look big. I remember he looked so big at the All-Star last year at Penn State. I was like, holy cow. And Mackay.
One tangential question is this the biggest match since? And the first one that comes to mind is Dake Taylor, because you had the same thing of 2 champs, one is bumping up. I think this is pretty similar to that. It's very rare that you have 2 returning champs go at each other. I mean, there's a guy who'll take a red shirt, and you got Aliras and Mendez in the same weight class, so they, you could have, a national champ wrestle each other. But now they're returning, and they were Hodge finalists last year.
Yeah.
So Hodge finals plus history. Dake was trying to go 4 for 4 and take out returning Hodge. This time it's, going
5
for your
for 5.
5th. 5 for 5 and take out.
Probably never going to
Hodge
happen
finalist.
ever again.
The only thing close that between Dake Taylor and right now, I think, would be Snyder Gwizdowski. Snyder was a reigning Olympic champion or world champion, excuse me, not yet Olympic. And Gwiz was a 2-time champ. He had not lost in a season and change. And so he was a monster favorite. Well, coming into the year, and then boom, you drop the Kyle Snyder. It was super hyped. But we'll see this one twice, likely. But I think this is a Dake Taylor level match. I think it's the biggest match since Dake Taylor.
I agree. Is it because Parker only has 1 title? I feel like it's not quite as hype.
That's if you're like comparing all that would be the thing if you look at O'Toole Carr, if you look at Hall Valencia. There are other stuff, but
David Taylor only had 1 title at the time of that match, but he was a dominant NCAA champion like Parker was.
For Penn State.
That's why I think he was so well. Yeah, but you throw how big it is not just like, oh, how many blue blood fan bases are involved. It's like you can look outside that and say this is a dominant national champion who really destroyed everyone, and now the smaller guy is putting history on the line, going for his 5th title. I think it's this generation's Jake Taylor.
Am I crazy for thinking he'll be the bigger guy? Like, I don't even think he's the smaller guy.
Yeah, he probably won't. Yeah, I mean, I bet I wouldn't be surprised if we.
But I know what you mean. He's coming up in weight, but man, Carter is so big.
Still just and Kyle Dake wasn't much smaller than David Taylor, if at all. It didn't look it. But yeah, just still the idea of coming up in weight to take on and take out the reigning national champion. I think
Starocci could have stayed at 74. I feel like that works better for Penn State's lineup too. It's not. I mean, there's always questions and stuff.
Maybe, yeah.
And they're so loaded. It probably
everywhere
doesn't matter.
someone goes creates problems. Just so you guys realize, like Carter going up to 84, that maybe he's forced Josh Barr out of the lineup entirely. If Carter was at 74, where's Levi Haynes right now? He can't go 57. You've got Mitchell Messenbrink. Can Mitchell go 57? I don't know. If he goes 57, where does Keckeisen and Facundo go? It's problems. It's the best problems you can have as a wrestling team in history. But like, there's no simple synergy with a team this good with this many good guys.
Yeah, the only reason I kind of brought up maybe this being not as hype as Jake Taylor, because I feel like
nothing's as hype as that. I mean, that's the biggest match in college wrestling history.
But remind me, was it the hype going into the All-Star?
Oh yeah.
There was.
Oh my gosh, it was insane. So
why does this not have that same? When we're talking about how comparable.
I mean, Kyle Dake was a 3-time national champion, and David Taylor was the flag carrier for this team, and we had just watched David go.
It was Hodge.
Pin tech at the NCAA tournament. It was after 2012 NCAAs. It was all everyone was talking about was like Dake versus Taylor. What would happen? Dake versus Taylor. Then they wrestled at Olympic trials. And then there was the Penn State side, which was, well, it was freestyle. That's not his best style. And then there was the Cornell side and the Dake fan side, which is he just wins. He just wins. And then it just got amplified when it got announced. I mean, it was so loud in the lead up to the All-Star. Like nothing really had happened like that.
Yeah, I think
college wrestling. There was nothing like that.
You would have to have like an AJ Ferrari, Gable Steveson level of fandom, like for those two guys. They were galvanizing those two guys.
Absolutely, it was like it was the wrestling conversation. It was everyone was talking about Dake versus Taylor.
Yeah, we need someone to get the old Matt.com message boards and do like a scientific quant analysis of like how many words, how many threads, how many whatever, and like compare that, because it would be like a graph that like blows up for Dake Taylor, and then it's like everything else is like 1% of that.
And it was a classic. JD, you kind of mentioned this, like, are we going to leave this match knowing? It was the most unsatisfying result at the All-Star Classic. It
perfect tease,
tiebreaker, riding time points, and then the scuffle.
Yep,
had this. It was a little bit controversial too. It was a win for Dake, but you're like, You still were like, I mean, no one thought David couldn't win in the NCAA finals as well. And got the first takedown, then just wasn't able to do it. But it everything that happened just it accelerated it. So it was crazy because the initial was like, oh, Dake's going to bump up for the All-Star. And then like later that week, it's like, no, he's staying at this weight. He like put it out there. No, I'm going 65 this year. So it was crazy.
I just think this is worthy of close to that match, and I feel like it's not getting the respect it deserves. Although there's a lot of talk about it. It's definitely the story of this NCAA wrestling season.
It'll get depending on how it goes. Assuming it's as close as we think, I think that'll add a lot of fuel to the fire. Because unless Carter dominates, scoreboard or whatever, but it just makes it look like, okay, now you can start saying next topic. That'll take the air out of the hype. But if it is close or a Keckeisen win, then the rematch is going to be enormous.
My Manalytics take on this match, yes, my very dumb Manalytics take. I think it's pretty almost widely known now, like the healthy way to think about things is I am grateful for the opportunity to wrestle, It's not about the outcome. It's about the process and becoming the best wrestler I can be. And if
Friends we made along the way.
Yeah.
that's right. That's like the healthy
gotcha.
way to think about things. And I think I've heard Parker really kind of talk a lot about that kind of mindset and being grateful. I hear Carter Starocci talking about like just winning.
Yeah.
Pissing on dudes' graves.
Yard.
Graveyards.
Spitting in people's faces. Like that I kind of just
He needs another natty daddy.
Old school. I kind of love just being like, no, win or die. Like he hasn't said that, but
When you live, lose, you die.
exactly. Like that stuff just fires me up.
Yeah.
And I kind of love it. And
yeah.
I kind of wish there was more of it. Knowing it seems like that is not a healthy way to think about things and probably not the best mindset to have to become the best wrestler you
I'm
can
with
be, but
yeah, I get exactly what you're saying here, and I feel like a lot of times you hear that it's almost like a self-talk. Them knowing deep down in their heart, mind, and soul, they actually feel that way. Like
you want to win.
That's like that is everything, and it's just their way of like saying no, it's not, no, it's not, no, it's not. But everyone knows deep.
Why do you
down.
play the game if it's not to win?
Yeah,
You play to win the game.
yeah,
Right, or else you wouldn't compete. You would just practice all the time.
exactly.
Talk about practice.
Practice.
Yeah, I mean, I liked hearing Parker too. I know we all did when he goes. It's an opportunity to learn. It's awesome. It's a big event. He's happy to participate in it. Of course, he wants to win. He's got that drive. But whatever happens is an opportunity to learn and get better as wrestling and further your progression in the sport. And yeah, I like how that contrasts with Starocci's bombacity and truculent.
I'm
They're
a simple
almost
man.
like the inverse like of the programs. Well, not like UNI is like this hardo team, but like the Parker mantra is very much what you hear the Penn State mantra, right?
right. And Doug's a fiery coach.
Yeah,
loud
yeah.
coach. Yeah.
Outspoken.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just makes it for fun. I mean, not a negative thing to say about either approach.
Yeah, like we said, biggest match of the year. So make sure you tune in. I would almost guarantee that'll be the last match.
It is. Yep.
Of the night.
So we're doing it. All right. We have the 5 women's freestyle match, the D2 versus D3 match. Then we're starting at 197.
Yes.
NCAA Little versus Bronigal.
Yep.
And then are you going reverse order?
Wrapping around. So heavyweight
And then-
125.
Gotcha.
Feldman, Gadali,
Yep.
and then Volk, Tanjo.
Let's
Bailey
talk about
Bird.
some of these other matches.
Yeah.
I think 141 is really exciting to me. NCAA Finals rematch, because that's another one. Not exactly a lot of closure in that match. Like,
Oh my God.
Bartlett's in on the winning takedown, and Jesse hits the move of the finals.
Yeah, for sure. And it's
Over the
interesting.
year.
It's yeah.
Party of the month.
I would say there was too much closure brought about in that match, even in my own mind. Like that match happened and Jesse won. I'm like, Jesse forever, and I'm like, what am I talking about? Like, he lost to him that year, and then he was doubled off, head up, hips in, back straight, and then just magic happened from Jesse Mendez, and you could say, hey, Jesse moving on forward, and that could be what happens, but it's a conclusion that I drew way too hastily and caught up in the moment. And this is more of a match than, I mean, they're going to hit here. I think they'll duel, potentially NCAAs. Alirez looms, obviously. So, I mean, I think, and Bo is talking about, he catches a little bit of heat for inactivity or not firing. But in his, preseason media, he's been talking about having a more offensive mindset and letting it fly out there. And I think, man, when you look at him when he goes, the speed in which he can attack legs, like he is a super athlete with great skill. And if he brings that to State College this weekend, he could beat Jesse Mendez. I think people need. I need to. I'm coming around to that. And after NCAAs, I was one way, but now I'm like, what am I talking about?
Yeah, both guys they beat everybody else. And, Bo's in some closer matches maybe than Jesse, probably has more bonus. But, what more evidence do you need than the fact that Bo did beat him and then that final was as close as you could possibly make a match?
Yeah. Also seeing Jesse, and I think another thing that is wind at Jesse's back is his freestyle.
Yeah.
He looked so good in freestyle. Jesse looked like he could be the guy.
Right.
He looked like this could be the best 65 in America.
And when you
right?
see him more often and when he's out there, I mean, Bo also competed, but
But
Not to
Jesse
say Bo hasn't. We've seen a lot of progression from Jesse Mendez the
Yes.
past 2 years. Think about where he was at 133 pounds.
Yeah.
As a freshman, then where he was at 141 pounds, then where he was at 65 kilograms.
Yes.
After that, and I don't think it might slow down a little bit because that amount of improvement just is not sustainable, but I don't think it's going to stop. I don't think he's going to stop getting better.
Yeah, for sure. His focus is 100%. And yeah, Jesse's the favorite, but man, this is probably like a 55-45, 60-40 type of match. Now, Jesse can make a statement here, and if he wins
Separation.
6-2 separation, I'll be like, okay, maybe my gut was reality.
Separation, no breathing.
Yeah, this isn't super. It's hard to draw conclusions from this, but another thing that did happen was Alirez beat Bartlett 8-0 at senior nationals, but when Jesse and Alirez wrestled, it was a very, very tight match.
That Jesse won.
Yeah.
That is for sure true.
I'm also super pumped for the return of Shane Van Ness,
Yeah.
who we haven't seen in a while, and a very interesting matchup with Ty Waters.
Yeah, Waters is an interesting matchup because he's, probably Ridge probably gets this distinction, but the best top wrestler at 149, if not Ridge, it's Ty, I would say, and so that's a challenge for Shane. Is he could be able to get away from him quickly. I think the leg attack game. I think what this one will come down to, Shane's going to attack. He's going to get to legs. Is Waters going to be able to keep him at bay and prevent some scores and slow things down with his scrambles? Either one, win with a ride or a turn, possibly, or can he get Waters has leg attacks. Can he fire one from space and get a score of his own and then shut down Shane? I mean, I think right now Shane's my pick. I think Shane has a great chance to win NCAAs this year, but we haven't seen him, right? We haven't seen Shane. He was out with injury. I think it's going to be a really good Shane Van Ness. That's my prediction. But it's this will be the first time we see Shane wrestle since, would it have been the All-Star previously, or did he wrestle after that, an event?
I think there was the All-Star, and then he got hurt in practice, right?
Yeah, after that. It was not a competition injury.
Right.
Yeah.
That Parco match was awesome, by the way. Really exciting. So I'm excited to see Shane because he is and another thing to monitor, just his pace is really something, and he can come at you. He's a little bit of everything. He's like a head down pit bull, can hand fight really hard, but he's got a good attack rate as well. And he is a guy with a lot of questions around him because of how his freshman season went, where he was like in matches but couldn't get a win. And then he goes crazy at NCAAs, and then we haven't seen him do a full season since, right?
Yeah.
So we're still like, all right, what is Shane Van Ness? In my opinion, I think he's the guy we saw at NCAAs, and
I think the Parco match kind of
cemented
reaffirmed that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Beat a guy like Kyle Parco like that.
And I want to thank whoever's in charge of scheduling at Penn State for not putting any matches or anything before this, because it adds to the intrigue of guys like Van Ness, and then also moving up Keckeisen and Haynes. It's our first time seeing them at that weight. We don't have any tape on those guys beforehand. Ty Waters wrestled at the Southeast Open, had a real close match with Lachlan McNeil, but then his scrambling ability was he did some insane things in the sudden victory scramble and got the win. So we have seen some of the other guys before. We haven't seen Keckeisen, but we've seen Peyton Keller. He beat some ranked guys earlier, and it's like shake off that mat rust. But this will be first time. I mean, they're obviously wrestling plenty in the room and getting plenty of practice, but not public eyeballs.
Yeah.
We're not going to go through every match in the All-Star, but are there any other notes or things you want to discuss before we move on to non-All-Star events?
I mean,
weekend?
I think we mentioned it last show, but Bird replacing Frost against Nasir Bailey. I think this is a big opportunity for Lucas Bird. I look at this more of a coin flip than Nasir being a huge favorite here. I agree. I think it's going to be a really tight match. I think, you throw rankings out a little bit here, and Nasir's first crack against Lucas Bird, I don't know. I think he's got a good chance. Can Lucas use his underhooks? Can he use his upper body stuff and kind of control the pace? Is Matt going to be a factor? Is Nasir going to be able to turn him? That's what I'm curious about.
I got to watch Lucas out at the Journeyman Wranglemania and then the Collegiate Classic. Bird wrestled in both of them, had some tight matches against good competition, but he looked like he is in good shape, in good form, no lingering injuries, and he controlled those matches pretty well. I'm excited for that. And Illinois, by the way, did awesome at both of those events. They look really good. So shouts to Coach Poeta and Fighting Illini. And that is the match I was going to bring up as don't sleep on 133 because Nasir Bailey, very exciting guy. Lucas Bird, 2-time All-American. Injuries kind of got in the way. And we're seeing him now for the first time in a while.
How about Little Rock? 2 guys in the All-Star.
Tremendous.
Yeah, we mentioned, the job Neil Ayersman's doing. And then I forgot, I knew whenever we started the underrated coaches thing, I was like, I'm going to forget one. Scott Moore, Lock Haven, definitely one. A guy, they're doing a great job there at Lock Haven. They're definitely worth mentioning as well. So apologies for that. Someone tweeted that, and I was like, oh, yeah, duh.
Also, speaking on 133, Frost playing out Dresser, addressed that in the media in the best Dresser way possible and said, yeah, when he goes, your girlfriend can lie to you, your mom can lie to you, but the scale doesn't lie to you. He said Frost came in double-digit pounds over what they wanted him to and ahead of Stanford on Friday. And so he said to punish him, he still made him make weight, but to punish him further, he didn't allow him to wrestle.
Dang.
He goes, because I think that might have put him in the hospital.
Oh, wow, really? Must have looked bad.
But
Been feeling bad.
Once again, credit to Dresser for being so frank and honest and free with the details of what's going on with his program.
yeah, so it sounds like just a weight thing for Frost, and with some discipline, he can get that hopefully under control come into the season.
One other, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my phone. I actually was looking something up. But
Playing a tower game, medieval
playing
game,
a tower.
jousting game, obviously.
Yeah,
Obviously.
But for 174 with Levi Haynes against Cade DeVos, Cade is if Levi gets a dominant win here, a bonus point win here, that is something that is very rarely achieved against Cade DeVos, and I think would be a statement to 174. Cade, he wasn't bonused any last year. I think his most lopsided loss was 4 points, and then he was pinned once the year before that, no other bonus. So Cade, not a guy that gives up a lot of points. He's going to be the underdog here, no question about it. But Cade's not someone you see dominated often. So a situation to monitor, margin of victory there would be a statement. I don't think it will be a dominant win. I think it'll be controlled, and Levi will leave no doubt, but I don't think it'll be.
Seems like
If this ventures with bonus points, I would be a little surprised.
Yeah, obviously it was kind of a bummer seeing Rocco up at 84 and then pulled out because he's going to be going 84 redshirting. But I think that the fact that that just moves DeVos up, that like he's an All-American, he's still giving you that, okay, what is Levi Haynes at 174? So the storyline is undiminished, and it's great to see a Jackrabbit in there. That program.
Two Jackrabbits.
That's right. Tanjo as well.
Yeah.
But, talk about coaches, and you guys probably covered that. But Damian Hahn and the Jackrabbits is a great story.
Yes, indeed.
So
All-Stars going to be lit.
Yep, All-Stars going to be lit. The
Tomorrow.
event.
That's why we're doing this show today.
Got another D2, D3 matchup, too.
Yep.
Yes, we do. Wartburg versus Indy. That's the event of the weekend. Once again, Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Live on Flow is how you can watch that. It's not the only thing happening this weekend.
You can also buy tickets. Please buy tickets if you haven't already.
Oh, yeah. You want to see that live. There's great seats in Rec Hall. That's a wonderful venue.
Not a bad seat in there.
Yeah.
Friday night, probably the marquee duel, Missouri versus Virginia Tech. We got 2 lines in the pick'ems this week. One from this match, 125, Certain versus Ventresca.
Oh, my gosh. What's the line?
I made Ventresca a favorite, 2.5 points.
Wow, you got him all the way back. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, what do you think? I think he's back. I think last year he was the Walking Dead in a shell of himself.
I get Certain plus 2.5. I have to take that. Eddie wins all his matches close.
Yeah, in no uncertain terms
Not all,
should he
but
be.
many.
This is the unfortunate part of the 3-point takedown.
If you take Noah, you have rigged it.
No, fine.
Yeah.
No arc for me. Give me Ventresca.
That's what I'm gonna do. Now watch Eddie's gonna win by 9.
I do that a lot, and it
Yeah.
does not. It has not been a good strategy. It was not a good strategy for me last year.
It's like
Where I
that's
say, screw you guys, I'm going the other way.
fine. My line's so good, I'll take it. No.
Ventresca is a great New Jersey.
Ventresca OT win, Ventresca OT win,
Oh,
Ventresca
yeah,
OT
that
win.
would be-
Speaking it into existence.
Yeah, he needs to win like Luke Luffman did and gets close
Right.
to the stall call.
Oh man,
Okay, that's
I got
that's my take.
flashbacks from that.
Is Tyler doing this?
Yeah, Tyler's in this too.
I can't pull it up right now, but I will also make a pick.
Okay.
Man, I'm gonna go certain.
Are you certain?
Yeah, I'm certain.
Okay,
Are you
All right.
positive?
we'll see. That one's Friday night, Missouri versus Virginia Tech. There's going to be some other pretty interesting matchups there. Like 84 should be fun. I don't think we're going to see Sasso at 97 for the Hokies yet. I think he's recovering from a minor injury, so I wouldn't be too worried about him, but
Okay, good.
could be a couple weeks before we see him.
Yeah, I'd like
Again.
to see him against Rock, although I think that's a tough match for him. Yeah, I mean,
He's keeping his Hodge campaign alive.
yeah, that's what you got to do.
Elsewhere, Friday night, Nebraska versus North Carolina.
Okay, so what are the big ones? 25's interesting. Spencer Moore's tough.
Spencer Moore is tough. The only line I put for this one is 49.
Yeah, Ridge versus Lackland.
And I made Ridge 2.5 point favorite as well.
I'll take Lovett.
Yep, I'm not leaving it. I love it. Give me love it.
Yep.
But here's the thing with Ridge. Sometimes he wins very, very close.
That's what I'm thinking.
But he can also blow it kind of out of the water sometimes. Even against tough competition. It just depends. Like, can he get a turn?
The reason I'm like one takedown match, and sometimes one takedown match can be 2 points margin of victory. If the guy gets away, you think about Ridge's advantage from the top position, likely to, if he gets the takedown, get the ride out. I don't know. It's not an easy decision, even though I kind of snapped to it quickly. But I've got Ridge covering that.
Plus, I had everybody coming after me after I picked him to win NCAA, so I feel like I have to ride with Ridge
Yeah, you have
for
to.
this season.
You're Ridge Mafia right now.
I'm attached to Ridge Mafia at the hip
Yep.
now for the rest of the year. Plus, then just another look at Nebraska's shift down
Yep.
lineup.
Yep.
Yeah, all red at 84, Pinto at 74. That's scary. Camden McDaniel in.
Really?
And yeah, and Antrell down at 57.
Another thing Dresser said in his Dresser presser was, sounds like we're going to get almost back to a full lineup for Iowa State Friday night. That a lot of their starters will be back in lineup. But Pinheiro isn't out of gambling jail until Saturday. And those are Dresser's words, not mine.
Evan Dresser is so funny.
Link jail.
All right. Well, we await Pinheiro's return.
That's right.
Excited for that.
Free my mans. And then Sunday, I think the biggest duel, also live on Flow, Oklahoma State versus Oregon State, the battle for OSU title, the title
Yeah.
of OSU.
Black and orange. The loser has to change their colors to pink and orange.
And yeah, and change the name of their school so that their acronym is
Yeah.
different.
In all likelihood, this duel probably won't be incredibly close. It's probably
State's nasty.
right, very similar. But think about how entertaining the Iowa duel was, even though on the team scoreboard that wasn't that close. I
Oregon
think
State had moments for sure.
that's right, and I think this will be similar. Oregon State is a very scrappy team. We saw that against Iowa. I think they're going to scrap against Oklahoma State, and it's Oklahoma State's opening weekend, so we're going to find out a lot about the Cowboys as well, just like we did with Iowa.
Yeah, there's all these. I'm really excited to see, another opportunity to watch Hughes and Taken down at their weights. Watch Spratley versus Renneria is an interesting matchup. Carter Young at 149. He's been out, or he had been out with injury and whatnot. Who do they use at 197? Does Merrill get a crack? At 197, he won MSU, but they've got Luke Serber there. There's still a lot of intrigue around Oklahoma State, and I can't wait for that duel.
Who do you think they'll use at 97?
Pragmatically, I think it makes sense to use Serber because this is, regardless of even if Merrill is their better guy, which I don't know is true or the case, like you'd save Merrill's 5, although it would be tough to use the 5 before. But I'll say Serber.
Yeah.
But I want to say Merrill just because it's, Everyone always wants
There's
to.
intrigue. There's questions. We don't know. This guy's a highly touted recruit. You want to see how he performs at the college level already.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't make us wait a year.
That's right.
I'm just pumped for another duel in Gill Coliseum. I thought there was so much energy for that Iowa duel.
Yeah,
So
there
my
really
favorite
was.
thing was when our guy Connor Petros was right there next to Tom and Terry Brands in the corner, and after Buchanan won,
was great.
and he just turns to the crowd, and they look like they've been having a lot of fun, enjoying the beer garden, been in the ear of the coaches the whole time, but they were all laughing and smiling when Terry turned around and gave him the broke stick and said, "That's how you do it." And
As was Terry.
yeah.
What kind of demeanor do you think David Taylor will be in
That
the
is-
corner as a head coach? That's a question I have.
I have been thinking about that. I don't see him as super demonstrative in the corner. I don't know. I don't. What has he done in the corner for like M2 guys? He's not like.
He's been pretty passionate.
Really?
For the U17
Yeah.
team trials at the U.S. Open, he was very demonstrative. Not running around and doing crazy stuff, but very into it. I mean, he's focused on his guys.
I would compare him to Casey Cunningham in the corner.
Okay.
Yeah,
Casey is definitely of the Penn State coaches the most animated.
Yes.
yeah. I think Kale is a lot more
not a-
reserved.
Hard competition to win.
I think that gets overblown a little bit.
What?
Kale, how reserved Kale is in the corner. I mean, he yells in the corner.
He's pretty reserved.
He's super reserved, man. He rarely talks. He'll make little comments, but he is very stoic in the corner. I watched it.
suppose.
Yeah,
He is, especially when you compare him to a lot of D1.
It's got to be audacious, or something's got to be really awry for him to, like, Bo Nickel taunting the Iowa crowd. That's like when you see him get animated, like stop.
Yeah.
But it's pretty.
I think the Cunningham analogy is pretty good. I think it's it's definitely he'll be more in that vein than Coach Kale.
Yeah.
Let's shift a little bit to freestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Christian, you wanted to talk about these new UWW rules. 'Cause
Yeah.
they're flying under the radar, but these could be big changes.
These could be big
For
changes.
international
New
wrestling.
rules.
Obviously, we've been talking about transfers for a long time. I've been talking about it for a really long time. Everyone knows I'm not a fan of it. Just as a USA fan, I want to see the best Americans wrestle for USA. It makes us win less when the better wrestlers are transferring out. That's just my thought as a fan of USA. But I believe that what precipitated these changes are Russia and USA feel like I do, and that they want their best wrestlers to wrestle for them. And let's be honest, those are two of the biggest power brokers as nations in UWW. And so I think that a change was made kind of reflecting what they're looking to make happen. I think Andrew can kind of articulate quickly what is changed about transfers in international wrestling.
Yeah, there were two. There was a letter kind of from President Lalovich to all the federations, and then there was like the rule, the specific rules themselves that are a little bit longer, as a few pages. But the letter kind of summed it up, and I'll read the bullet points succinctly as possible. First, you need a passport. It used to be you could use a residence permit. You didn't need to have a passport for the new country. So that's going to be extra hurdles because a lot of those countries, it's not as easy to get passports. Certainly not in the U.S. And I don't, each country is different there, but a country can only accept one transfer per year, one male and one female, and that's at all age levels. It used to be you could get a U17, a U20, U23, and a senior all in one. You could basically get a whole team in a year if you do all four transfers. Now it's one. Another big one is you have to sit 3 years from your last major competition. It has to be a UWW competition. They explicitly spell out the one. So a ranking series, a continental championship. So U15 Pan Ams, that's going to count. And then it's going to be 3 years before you can transfer. And it used to just be 2. This one is a little weird, but I think it's going to make a huge difference. You need non-transfers in your lineup at competitions to balance out how many transfers you have. And they'll phase it in, but by 2029, you need 4 non-transfers, 4 nationals at an event on your team for every 1 transfer. So you can't be Bahrain and just have 4 former Russians. You can't. Or Serbia or San Marino, or you need to have a lineup of people that are
These are grandfathering in for the Mileses and the Stevons, and they've been wrestling for Serbia for a while now.
That's a good question. So a lot of this stuff is, here's the rule, here's the intention, and then a country can only have 3 guys leave your country per year is the other thing. But so UWW made this was not a rule, but an explanation. It says the rules address situations where an athlete has been trained and competed for country A on the national level and then chooses to represent country B internationally. So very much like we've all been saying and what it's for. So now the enforcement question comes in, and how finally are they going to go after stuff? Is it retroactive? I don't think so. I think they want to make these rules going forward. Yeah. I think it's going to be real tough to go back and then try to police and then have a whole committee to decide all these different things. I think they just want to start making it so that they want countries to develop their own talent is the big thing too. Yeah. From a UWW perspective, the transfers does help. It does give Slovakia a competitive team now when Salkazanov and Tuskayev and Makoev and all these guys are wrestling there. But they also want Slovakia to have Slovakian high school kids and middle school kids and other things go through the process and become part of the sport. So
if they live in Russia the whole time, like what benefit does Slovakia get other than during the tournament their flag's next to some dude's name?
Right. And then, you don't – it's not long term. It's not creating a lasting boost.
Do you think that, so like kind of the effect of what you talked about earlier, Christian, if you're a fan of wrestling, like you should be excited that Gabel Steveson is wrestling. Like what about the idea that if you're a fan of wrestling, you should be excited that more great wrestlers are getting to compete in world tournaments through doing this? Are you open to the idea of like countries maybe being able to send more than one guy, or like how do we remedy this? Because the fact of the matter is, like, it does kind of suck that most of the world's best wrestlers are coming from a few countries, but those countries can only send one guy.
I would be open to, I think it's totally unrealistic, but I'd be open to multiple entries for different countries. I think that'd be cool. You see that in other international sports. We won't see it in wrestling. I'd be open to that. I would be, regarding this rule, this may be a surprising perspective, but I think anyone that has, I think for the Tazudinovs, the Miciches, the Amins, all these wrestlers that have wrestled for their non-native country, I think they should be allowed to, and they shouldn't be counted as anything other than like a Serbian or a Bahrainian wrestler moving forward. And then the new guys are under the new rules because you allowed this transfer, and Stevan and Tazudinov, they don't really have anywhere else to go if they can't wrestle for these nations, and so
they all played by the rules.
They played by those rules. So and Bahrain played by those rules, and Serbia played by those rules. So my hope is that they are still allowed. They should be treated as nationals. Serbians, Bahrainians, just by virtue of they've been on the team. There's nothing stopping these. There was nothing. International wrestling. I'm just thinking about it like this. Like international wrestling is better when there, in my opinion, when there's deep and really difficult national level events, and it's just a part of the process. Just like qualifying for the NCAA tournament is a thing, and you kind of are paring it down to this list. That's what it should be, and like all the American wrestlers are all vying for that spot, and it's very exciting because it's the best of the best. So in my mind, you aren't limiting. Actually, I would push back on your entire thesis, because by virtue of these guys transferring, we see them wrestle, I think, less, because while we may see them at the World Championships, we don't see them in the U.S. system where they'd be wrestling at the Open and World Team Trials and potentially Final X. Instead, they just skip to the end of the line, and maybe they'll wrestle in Kazakhstan or do a ranking series. But at the premier events, which are the nationals and the qualifying events and the World Championships, we're only seeing them at one of those events.
I think it's cool seeing them at Euros too, which is like objectively the toughest tournament outside of Worlds.
Yeah, I mean, that is cool. But Euros doesn't attach to anything. Euros is like a separate, just like Pan Am's. It doesn't actually mean anything.
I mean, in the United States, but over there it means a lot.
Meaning it is it is a self-contained event, right? It like doesn't go to anywhere else. Whereas like the Russian nationals process or the USA process,
it doesn't feed into the World Championships. Russia sends their number 2 guys to Euros every year.
Exactly. So for that reason, fine. Euros is cool. I don't disagree with that, but I think I would push back that you are getting less wrestling, less opportunity to watch elite wrestling by slowing down the transfers, because these guys actually don't have to compete as much at all because they're on the team. There's no qualification necessary for Worlds other than like maybe you have to participate. Your country has to participate in the Continental.
Sadulayev is a 4-time Euros champion, by the way. So it's not Russia is not only sending their
but they a lot of times
Go look at all of their squads.
I'm just saying, like,
Euros.
he's also been wrestling since 2014 on the senior level, and he's won it 4 times.
yeah.
So he
doesn't
very
enter
rarely
every year.
goes.
They do send their A guys a lot of the time.
Well, 4 out of the last 10 years would not be a lot.
And that's when Sadulayev doesn't. Yeah, there's usually special. He's like the only starter a lot of on those teams. I think. I mean, hey, this is very speculative. It's not like there's any plans for this, or whatever. But if this keeps more Russians in Russia and more Americans in America, and it doesn't have as many of those elite, talented guys that are number 2, 3, 4, whatever in those countries at Worlds, maybe it creates more opportunities for events where you do have an invite, and it could be held all over the world or whatever, and it doesn't have to be on Flow, but maybe, and you get the top 8 regardless of country, and maybe it's 4 Russians, 3 Americans, and 1 other whatever, and an Italian. And that's your 8-man bracket. I don't know. Just saying that things will change and adapt, and the best wrestlers will hopefully figure out ways to compete against each other.
Let's say for some reason that this didn't go through, like it wasn't implemented. Do you think that we would also benefit from providing more incentives to people that are like number 2, number 3, number 4 on the ladder?
We probably provide more incentives than most countries, I would say.
But I'm saying in the United States, like, do you think that we should maybe put a little more resources into like raising the incentive for staying on the senior like circuit in the United States?
People transfer to win a world title, unless it's like an astronomical amount of money. That's the only reason. What?
Some of these dudes are getting crazy money.
I mean,
when they transfer,
it's not a bad idea to say, oh, we should, provide higher prize money for tournaments like the U.S. Open.
Have like a living the dream fund kind of thing, where like second place at Final X gets you $25,000 instead of second place at Worlds. Or I mean, obviously,
I don't know if that would curb it or not.
That, but
maybe it would. That's certainly more. Would that be enough? I don't know. Maybe it would keep guys in. Maybe that would be a worthwhile investment. I'm not opposed to that. National team being more of a status than it currently is. Would that keep some around? Maybe.
Because that's like what Jordan even said in his interview with us after the Olympic trials. He was like, well, I'm not gonna wrestle for third at the Olympic trials so I can get like $800 a month or whatever he said in the interview. He's like, I'm not gonna do that. So yeah. I think that's part of it.
He makes well over $800 a month. So I think it's probably part of it.
You won't find anybody here, or probably even in this building, that does not want to see wrestlers get paid. I think that's like our whole point.
I don't, and honestly, like the more I've been, I feel like, did Stevan Micic and Miles Amin transfer so they could make more money? I don't think that's probably it.
No. It's the same reason like guys go to Penn State when they might not start.
Yeah. It's like they're after a dream, and I think it's that more than anything. Yeah. I think that's what's driving it.
Here's my whole take on the new transfer rules: either allow it or don't. Why are we like restricting it to a few? Then
there's some things like a Cuban refugee, like what and
then they live in America full
right
time,
and so you have to allow it in certain cases. There's guys that immigrate.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He's saying like actually live there.
I'm saying it doesn't seem too hard to like set some boundaries where you say, and I know they did the resident permit, but like, what is like prove your affiliation to this club and this is where you live and train. Like that doesn't seem like we all know who lives and trains.
I don't know. The enforcement would be really hard. You're talking about international.
It wouldn't be that hard. Miles Amin lives in Ann Arbor, Michigan. He trains there only.
I know, but
it's actually really easy.
But from Switzerland, they're gonna they're gonna figure all that out.
It wouldn't be that.
I feel like it's not gonna be hard to find loopholes for that. To be honest with you, people do it with taxes all the time.
There's tax loopholes.
I think if you're gonna do it, this is a reasonable way to do it.
I don't
think you should do it by like how many days a year you spend in.
Well, to me, this is just countries. Like, it's like saying, hey, we want this to be a pure representation of a country, except for a couple guys. Then it's okay. Either like say it's okay or it's not.
I think
I don't think they wanted to get rid of it. I think they just wanted to limit it.
here's the thing. Another thing that I think as UWW looks at this, it is good for them if there's and maybe we've talked around this a little bit, and maybe I'm just having this moment, but you want the locals not just to be built into, but you want to feel like you can eventually be on that team. Right now, if you're a Bahrainian citizen, there's no reason you would ever think you could make a team if you're a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old that's maybe coming into the sport. And you're seeing this in like South America, like Brazil and in women's wrestling. They're like having like these, we're seeing improvement there, and there's investment in Cuba. And if everyone was a transfer in there, it's like you'd kind of never get it going. I mean, look how far India has come in a pretty short amount of time, really, from rare, we were never talking about India. Now they're not a power, but like, man, you wrestle an Indian wrestler, it's going to be really difficult. And I think if you don't have the momentum of seeing your own, countrymen on the team, it's like, how do you ever have that hope? This guy's from Dagestan. He's wrestling for, all right, forget it. This guy's from here. He's and some of these, like Serbia should have, probably has actual wrestling culture there in that country. Like it should be, I think it'd be good to see that built into it. If they want to, and I think if you live there and you're living, breathing it, I do think that's different. Maybe no one else does. I think that's different.
I'm not saying that's not different. My pushback was JD's thing saying like having 0 transfers or just allow free for all. I think they're trying to find a more middle ground there, and there's nothing wrong with that.
It's probably not realistic to have an international sport and not allow transfers in really any sport, right? So I think you probably have to have some sort of mechanism for transfer. But anyways, we probably talked about this a little more than I thought we would.
Yeah. Tyler, hit us with this day in FRL history episode.
Wow. Okay, let me pull that up real quick. We did you guys were talking about the last show a little bit, which is, again, topics we want to avoid. CP, you had a pet peeve against the wrestling community. I don't know if
Do you know what it was? Did you listen to it?
I did not listen to it.
Well, let's listen. I don't know what it was.
Oh, okay. Well, I did not listen to it, so I don't know what it was.
Shout out.
What was the title of episode 70?
The title is Dab on Him, Chad.
So I know this. We were Chad got a lot of hate for his dance after he beat I guess it was Pletcher at Who's Number One. Just, wrestling fans being wrestling fans, and I think Willie and I were just supporting Chad and his life, having fun. He's a kid, and
Chad Red,
CJ, Chad Red Jr. So I think we talked about that. I don't know what my pet peeve was. Sound like there's a little bit of Thanksgiving food talk.
There was a lot of Thanksgiving food talk. You went through. I skimmed through it before the show. Most of my skimming was you talking about how you organize your Thanksgiving plate.
Listen, longtime listeners know I love Thanksgiving. I love Thanksgiving food. I'm very excited about it the day of and the following days, where I get great leftovers for a week on end.
Almost time for turkey sandwiches.
We already have a 23-pound turkey in the Piles household. That's going to be
massive. That's a mutant size.
Well, we got people, we got the Brays and their whole crew. The Kozaks are coming. Perhaps the Sweet Prince and his royal family are coming, along with my parents. So we're going to need a lot. David is allegedly smoking a turkey as well. So
2 turkeys.
Double turkeys. Probably someone will waste their time and make a ham. But I support.
No ham slander on this.
I support making of ham because that means you'll eat less turkey. But I don't like ham. I won't apologize for that.
Some people say there's
from
4 turkeys.
Virginia. You don't like ham?
I don't care. I don't eat peanuts that much either. It's all right.
You're like a woman that goes crying about how she's got no bread with a Virginia ham under her arm.
Thanks, Uncle June. Bless you, Tyler.
Thank you.
Yeah, love Thanksgiving food. Ben Askren was a big hater of it, but yeah, I'm excited for it. It's just a couple weeks away.
We'll get more into I'm sure we'll do. This won't be the last Thanksgiving.
I love Thanksgiving. I could have a whole separate podcast about Thanksgiving.
You're thankful for it.
I'm very grateful. A lot to be thankful for.
Before we get into questions off wrestling, any interest whatsoever in the 2 big fights this weekend? Mike Tyson, Jake Paul,
No.
and John Jones, Stipe.
Yes.
Yes.
Come on. You're not a little interested
I'm
in
really
Mike Tyson
not.
versus Jake
Bro, I'm
Paul?
scared Mike Tyson's gonna like die.
I will see the highlight if there is one, or the low light, as it were, on social media well after it happens. I will not be like counting down. Or
I have no shame. I'm tuning in.
I cannot believe. Well, what day is it? Friday.
Free on
Friday
Netflix, right? Or do you have to
If
pay
you
for it?
subscribe to Netflix, it's not
Netflix is
pay-per-view.
not free.
Well, I mean,
Fool.
okay, yeah. Sorry,
Jeez.
you know what I mean. Like
It is not a pay-per-view event.
It's not a pay-per-view event. If you have Netflix, you can watch it.
Clash of Combat. Shout out Crosby. So yeah, no, I just don't care. I mean, I can't. Shout out to Jake Paul. He's made this work, but I can't believe there's like a lot of people that are still like into this, the gimmick of him pretending he's an elite boxer while fighting no elite boxers at any point in time, unless they're 57 years old. Like what? Like
Yeah, I'm impressed by
I'm impressed.
by his hustle, by his entrepreneurship. He's got a great system. He makes people care. He got JD hooked, and
Yeah, it worked.
Well, I don't care if he fights anybody, but I do care if he's fighting Mike Tyson. I never got to watch. I guess.
And
Roy
you
Jones-
never will.
Roy Jones.
It's not him.
I think
I agree.
Tommy Fury was like pretty legit boxer, but
don't think he was.
Jake did lose to him.
or sort of was,
I
Yeah.
mean,
I think
he's
he's like
legit, meaning he's related to a really legit boxer.
yeah.
and like fights professionally.
He's 8-0, which is not crazy in professional boxing, but
Yeah. Shout out to Tommy.
Like I already subscribed to Netflix. I got
Boxing
no
is
Friday
also-
plans. I'm gonna tune in.
Boxing is a tough watch.
especially
now
modern.
that we have MMA guys, it is just so much more exciting.
You know, people probably say the same thing about wrestling.
I don't care. That's
yeah, people say about baseball.
I'm
it's fun to
interested.
watch.
I like watching boxing.
boxing is terrible.
I mean, it can be terrible.
so
It can also be very fun to watch.
Yeah, not to me.
I've watched enjoyable boxing matches, but they're just those fights. They're long, and then so little happens, and I don't know. Not
Boxing's dead.
they take too long.
who do you think's gonna win, Mike Tyson or Jake Paul?
Probably Paul.
Jake Paul, it's all rigged for his
yeah.
the machine.
Rigged
yeah?
for his pleasure.
Of course,
I don't think it's rigged, but
he's fighting a 57-year-old
yes.
man. It's rigged.
I will say-
he rigged time to be 30 years younger.
I do. Hey, I was talking about earlier the whole kind of winning actually matters mentality. Mike Tyson has been on that, and he's back on it, talking about how he's gonna
They're
take
giving
his soul.
gifts. He's receiving the gift of a pigeon. This is not Iron Mike. He's softened. He would never indulge. The old Iron, you couldn't even let him in the same room with these guys. Now they're giving a gift exchange and sharing. These doing sit down interviews with one another. This is so far removed from the Iron Mike that I wish you. I mean, it's not like I watched him growing up either. But
I remember, I first my memories are of him like going to jail,
yeah,
not of like staying up to watch his fights or whatever.
biting ears off.
That I did watch. I watched that live.
That's crazy.
Holyfield. He ate a piece of another man.
He did drop one of the greatest lines, which I can absolutely not repeat
Yeah,
on this show.
there's plenty of those.
I'll eat your children is a fun one.
That's a good one.
That's one of his
Can't
tamer.
repeat.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm super into John Jones, Stipe Miocic. It's happening right after the All-Star, and we have 5:15 a.m. flights. And longtime listeners know, Stipe has a hard time staying up late for MMA fights. So this is gonna be a challenge for me, but I want to watch
Especially
it.
East Coast.
And Bo Nichols fighting also.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's on the main
excited
main card.
to see that.
I don't know much about the guy he's fighting. I would assume.
Yeah,
Bo's a
Bo's a
big
favorite,
favorite.
yeah.
Yeah.
huge favorite. So yeah, I'm into it.
All right, Tyler. Question
It's
time.
great.
So I don't know if you guys are gonna. I don't know how many wrestlers are actually this close to being a 4-time national champion, but Shocked FRL wants you to rank the top 5 wrestlers who are the closest to being 4-time NCAA champs.
I mean, Ringer comes to mind. He was a close takedown call away from beating St. John, and he would have been a pretty good favorite in the finals if he had won there. And then he went 1-1-1 after that.
Spencer Lee is obvious.
Spencer's definitely. I mean, Spencer's one where like take COVID out and you change some injury situations. Like he's a definite what if, and it almost was on the 4-timer front.
Abbas.
I don't know.
I think he's in there because didn't he go like?
Well, McElravy for sure. McElravy won. I think he was 1-1, 2-1, or he was either 1-1, 2-1, or 1-2, 1-1, and it was an upset when he lost to Illinois guy.
Ed Ruth more recently.
Ed Ruth for sure. We were even talking with David about that. Like, if you don't know, Ed went 3-1-1-1, and he lost to Nick Amuchastegui of Stanford his freshman year at NCAAs, and his knee locked up, and he didn't call for injury time, and I think he got turned or ridden for a lot. And basically, the thought was, like, if he takes injury time, gets his knee unlocked, he probably beats Amuchastegui. I don't disagree with that. I'll also say Zane. It feels like he was a red shirt away from probably being a four-timer.
And beat the champ that year.
And he beat the four-time national champion Logan Stieber.
Yep.
So he's certainly up there. Bo Nickel, he lost to Miles Martin, who he had beaten twice that year.
Abbas went 4-1-1, by the way. I had to look it up. I thought it was 3-1-1 before.
Jason Nolf also beat the guy that he lost to in the NCAA finals his freshman year and never lost again.
You guys are making me realize there's way more of these than I thought there were.
David Taylor.
Yeah.
He was only a two-time champ, but one lost to Dake, and then a freshman lost to Bubba J.
Yep.
Imar was on his way until Chenzo'd him twice.
So those are our answers.
All right. Slink wants to know the best guy that won only one NCAA title.
How can you ever?
Does anyone come to mind?
Need a computer for that.
I don't know.
All right, moving on.
Well,
Virginia.
there's also multiple ways to look at that, like who had the best career outside of that one, or like flash in the pan.
Sick
who was
run.
the best? Like Cody Brewer comes to mind for
Darian
like
Caldwell.
Mark
Darren
Hall.
Caldwell. Yeah,
Hall,
but you could also look at guys who had crazy like Mark Hall.
Or Mark Hall's not like we were thinking of. He's just a one-time.
Yeah, so
I'm gonna say Parker Keckeisen. Just kidding.
Not a bad answer, honestly.
Because it's kind of a hack, because
Yeah.
he hasn't finished his career. Virginia's for FRL said, which heavyweight has the best style to compete with Gable? Offensive neutral pressure of Feldman, Bastida, top wrestling of Hendrickson, or the combination with Kirk?
Man, that is a good question.
Is it crazy to say? I don't know if there's a good style to beat Gable.
I do think it is probably Kirkfleet.
Yeah.
They've had, somewhat competitive matches in the past by Gable standards. Even going back to high school, it was like interesting. And then at NCAAs in, I think it was 22, they hit, and it was like not a walkover. I think it was a quarterfinal match. Maybe it was a semi. I don't recall. So probably him. I feel like Feldman, no.
I don't think you could have a high attack rate.
Younger's
like Gable's just
interesting.
gonna.
Younger's interesting.
I feel like Gable's just gonna like down block go behind you.
You need size too.
You got to be big enough.
I'm thinking
Yeah.
like the only thing that comes to mind is Masumi with his maxing out the 125 kilos.
I stood next to him, and I couldn't even tell who was bigger. There's a picture, so I'm not actually sure. I think Gable would mess up Masumi personally.
Yeah, I think Kirkfleet is the I don't even know if it's a style. That's definitely part of it. I don't know if Wyatt maybe has something in the toolbox. I wouldn't pick him at all.
Wyatt's too wide open.
Yeah, the only thing I'm thinking of is
He's
like
a
maybe
gunslinger.
that could get him at some point. I wouldn't bet on it, but
Yeah.
This Detroit style pizza is number one. Asked the question, should Gable be ranked outside of the top 5? According to the AJ rank logic, he's been doing other things and not practicing wrestling for 2 years.
this is by CP's burner.
We got into an argument this morning. Kozak, if
I
you're
have no
listening,
runners.
you can come in here and say your piece.
Well, here, I'll just ask a question. What's Gable going to be ranked?
1.
Oh, you learned a good lesson. I'm glad to hear
No,
it.
they're different. They're different because Gable has a better college resume set forward than AJ.
Yeah.
AJ wrestled the COVID year, 2021, didn't go undefeated, won the national championship, and then came back for a handful of matches before getting into a serious car wreck that caused injury that left him out of 3 NCAAs. Gable's only been out 2 NCAAs and has a far better college, not even international, resume since then.
Anyway, AJ wrestled last year. Gable was doing WWE and football. 2 years, 3 years. I don't know. Y'all just drew an imaginary line that 2 doesn't matter and 3 does.
I don't think that's what they did.
Also having
No one is
2 NCAA
disputing-
titles versus 1,
I was
2
so quiet while you went
This is
on. You drew an imaginary line 2 versus 3.
No.
You're creating a fake narrative that AJ has to be as good as Gable to get the same grace. That's not the argument at all. You're being compared to the field. AJ compared to the field is not the 4th best resume.
AJ lost to Noah Adams.
Yes, he did. And then he won the tournament that Noah was in, and he beat the number 1 ranked guy twice that year. And then he didn't lose the following year, was out with injury.
And he was undefeated for 3 years.
Well, he wrestled. Everyone says 3 years, but he wrestled that year. And he also wrestled in a tournament last year.
And didn't get his hand raised against Glazer.
Okay, well, I'm not going to bring that into it. I'm not going to bring that into it.
I'll also say he raised both hands in that. So that's a checkmate. No, I mean, listen, y'all can do whatever you want to do. I think the lines are just getting drawn a little inconsistently. Gable, number 1, is correct. That's the correct ranking for Gable. I would never argue he shouldn't be number 1.
I think the idea that lines are being drawn, period, is incorrect. I don't think you can frame it as in they're saying we're only doing 2 years versus 3 years. It's the full body of work versus the full body of work. And there's thousands of lines all going everywhere that are interpreted differently. There's no simple answer.
AJ in a year and a half has a better body of work than Stephen Buchanan.
Than Stephen Buchanan?
Indisputably.
I think you have to be punished a little bit for missing 3 NCAAs. And Gable can get punished for missing 2 NCAAs, and his resume is still above Kirkfleet's.
Yeah, he has more room to go down.
You can't just be like, hey, here's your resume, and you get to keep your resume for an infinite amount of time.
So here's
like,
AJ number 1.
Somewhere.
If he had continued to wrestle and beaten everybody, obviously he'd get more slack, but because he didn't, his slack is here, and then not wrestling brings him down. Mm-hmm. Now, Gable has this much slack because he destroyed absolutely everybody for a long period of time, and then, 2 years would drop him. But here's Kirkfleet. Nope, still not number 1.
And and another thing, Buchanan never made an NCAA final. Greg Kirkfleet is an undefeated NCAA champion. So the bar to get beyond Greg is higher than it would be to get beyond Steven.
Yeah, and that just shows how crazy Gabel Steveson's slack was, that a guy like Kirkfleet, who is objectively a better resume than Buchanan at his weight, still doesn't catch up to Gable after 2 years.
You say still, but it's just like that was just the decision made. It's not actually. There's no actual system that is feeding that. It's just
correct
vibes.
It's a completely unique situation in both cases, so you cannot have a black and white thing. You can have an opinion one way or another, but there's no way to say, well, according to this formula. There is no formula.
Y'all ranked AJ 4th. Crazy.
All right, Spencer, you guys can answer this one quick. Spencer Humphreys asked, Gable or the field at NCAAs?
Gable.
Yeah.
Mystic Matt wants to know, is Marcus Blaze the biggest recruit in college wrestling history?
No. He
Who
lost to
was?
Ben DeVino last year in a high school wrestling tournament.
Who was a bigger recruit?
Gable.
Gable was like,
is he the best?
4-time national champion for sure. Like he wasn't, but like that was the thought. He was that guy right away. Absolutely.
Heavyweight too.
Gable to me is the ultimate prospect.
And you knew what weight he was going. You knew that he would be at that weight forever.
Yeah.
Or for his whole career.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
The real Avery Lynch said his comparison Joey Silva this year is the GOAT Andy Smith. Thoughts, CP?
He is a GOAT. He's one of our many GOATs. I don't know if I have one. Like Joey Silva was a guy. Honestly, Bo Bartlett is my Joey Silva and has been for years. I had to listen to Ben, Brackey, and even maybe a little JD hate on Bo because he did not. I thought he was going to be really good, and he didn't qualify his true freshman year where he was wrestling up a weight. And the stupid qualification process, which was so dumb that they took. Let me break this down for y'all. If y'all forget what happened in 2021, they said, all right, we're going to take however many qualifiers you had last year at this weight, and that's going to be how many the conference gets this year. And so EIWA got all of these qualifiers, right? So from last year's wrestlers, but let's remember, Ivies didn't even wrestle. So you had all these. So you had some programs that had some qualifiers. You're like, these guys had no business there. Meanwhile, you had wrestlers like Bo Bartlett and many other really good guys that you knew were in the top 33, probably the top 16, that didn't get to go. So they dunked because he wasn't a qualifier that year and said that he wasn't good. And I said, listen, this guy is good enough to be a national champion. They laughed and laughed and laughed. He clearly is that guy. He didn't end up, he had to wrestle the next year up a weight. And I still didn't get off the Bo train because I think he's really, really good. And he was at the wrong weight. He got down to 141, All-American next year, national finalist, double A finish away from champion. And he could win it this year. So Bo Bartlett is my Joey Silva. The guy that I just ride for. And now it looks like less cool because he became what I thought he was going to be. Joey didn't get to do that. But
I think you get to be president of the Bill Bartlett fan club.
I'll be the president and sergeant at arms.
I think Joey finished like top 10 in the world at this last World.
Yeah, so joke's on everyone else. Joke's
Dominic Montano said, would you say any team besides Minnesota benefits from Gable being back? Seems like Oklahoma State would benefit from a Big Ten bloodbath at heavyweight and possibly a Kirk and Gable semi.
I don't know if it creates that or not. I think, yeah, honestly, it could, though. Well, no, here's what's going to happen. It's going to be Gable's going to get the 1, and then it's going to be a Wyatt Greg 2-3 is my read. So it doesn't really make a difference. Like the Big Ten bloodbath doesn't help Wyatt unless you think that Greg is going to beat Gable.
The only way it could help would be
Feldman gets in there.
I was going to say Iowa, if a serious injury happens to one of the Penn State guys and they don't, at one of the weights where they don't have a viable backup, it's going to produce a lot of points, and it somehow becomes a team race between Iowa and Penn State, and that knocks them down from champ points at 285.
Those are like
that's a crazy hypothetical.
Like first to second isn't that big of a difference.
Maybe that's that could be a 4 to 6 point swing, maybe. I mean, you could say, all right, Greg's the 2. He loses to Gable. He has Wyatt in the semis. He loses to Wyatt. He gets third, no bonus. That's like 12 points.
Okay.
Whereas from 20. So it could be an 8-point swing. But Iowa needs to capitalize there at heavyweight, and it's just got one spot harder on the podium.
You're also going to lose some points there with Keeter, most likely.
If they had Wyatt Hendrickson or someone like that looked like they could, make a final or potentially unseat Greg, that would be notable. But I think it'll be tough.
I think the way the math works is if you're like a contender team or a trophy team, the more good wrestlers that are at the tournament is not good for you.
Yeah.
And not that you're rooting for guys not to wrestle or injuries or whatever, but that's just the math.
Yep.
Next question is, I think this is a perfect question to ask Spay while he's here.
Oh, wonderful.
Brad Howland thinks it's dumb that Iowa State is on Big Ten Plus. You wanna talk to him about the situation?
Is that the guy that said behind a paywall?
Yeah, he said biggest duel of the year that casual fans won't pay.
Guess what? Anytime anything's on ESPN or Big Ten Network, it's behind a paywall too.
Yeah, you have to sign up for. I mean, I do Google, whatever the Google TV, YouTube TV that gives you the cable channels, but it's $80 a month minimum to get ESPN or whatever, because I don't have cable otherwise, and more people are canceling cable. It's like 7% of the cable subscribers are dropping per year, and that's like a consistent 7%. So every year,
Just my dad hanging on.
it's mostly the older
My parents finally stopped, and that was tough when I had to sign up for my own. I couldn't cling on to that dish password anymore.
Yeah,
this year.
Listen, this isn't. If you think that BTN or BTN Plus is profiting more because this is on BTN Plus, you're wrong. Like, this is not some. They're not twiddling their thumbs to get this subscription revenue. That's not why they did this.
No, they want to put the whatever's going to get them the highest ratings so they can sell more ads. They want to put that on their cable channel, and then everything else just goes on BTN Plus.
This is a victim of doing it on a Saturday.
Yeah.
On a Big Ten
in football season.
During football season, where it's going to be Big Ten Network is going to be stacked with football.
Yeah, you are
obviously.
not going to get wrestling over a football.
I don't care if it's Penn State, Iowa. Any Big Ten football game is going to 100x that. Not 100, but.
This is why I wanted to ask you, because you were like kind of into the numbers of it last year, right? Like and you were comparing it to other events that ESPN was doing at similar times or whatever.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, so also it's all about the contracts. And like, so all Iowa home duels are going to be, I think ESPN maybe could get one. But what the deal? But it's BTN is the only TV that it could possibly be on. Iowa State has a deal with ESPN. They can flex it in and put it on ESPN2 or any of their cable channels that they want. But they don't have that option, so it can't be on ESPN. It's not going to be on ESPN.
Yeah.
And that's it. ESPN is kind of the monopoly if we had to pick one in the sport. I'm not going to go there. Here's the good news, guys. Wrestling will probably more and more be an option for TV, but the bad news is it's because cable ratings are plummeting and people are canceling their cable packages, so there'll be a point where it's going to be just as many people watching on cable as would be watching online.
I think it'll be a great broadcast. You're going to be able to watch it. You can put it on your TV. I mean, I don't work for BTN Plus or BTN, but like, I'm glad we're going to get to watch it. Obviously, TV people, I get it, but what? I'm not trying
BTN
to.
Plus is a good deal.
I think it's, dude, if you.
I would
You don't have
subscribe.
BTN Plus. I don't think you're really like a great wrestling fan. Like you're missing a ton of good wrestling if you don't have BTN Plus.
I was a BTN Plus subscriber since before Flow existed or whenever it existed.
Easy.
Whatever.
I mean, easy for me to say. I live this. I love wrestling a lot. I would never bat an eye getting BTN Plus, and I understand that for everyone else, wrestling is more on the side thing. That's fine, but there's nothing insidious happening with it being on BTN Plus.
The other thing is if people are worried about casual fans, I get it, but no one scrolls through cable TV even when all they did was watch cable TV and go, oh, what's this, a sport I'm unfamiliar with? Let me learn about it. Like, think about how many times you've paused on a volleyball game or whatever and then became like a big fan. Like, it just... You don't randomly do it just because it's on TV. You do it because there's hype around it, because your friends are into it, for a bunch of factors that pushes you towards the sport, and that's what you got to do. Just be positive about the sport and get as many of your friends into it as possible.
And honestly, I cape up for BTN because a lot of bigger entities get no hate or anything. And BTN is actually in the sport of wrestling. They're not just a streaming provider. No one makes the content we do or the volume or the level of Flow Wrestling, but BTN has real investment around the sport of wrestling. They care about the sport of wrestling.
100%.
And so if you like ESPN doesn't, right? Like that's just no
nothing.
And I'm not saying that's not their prerogative, the choice for them to make, but like BTN is in this. They're in these streets trying to promote the sport of wrestling. So man, I'm kind of not gonna. I'm not gonna. You maybe thought if you tweeted that at us, we were gonna bury him, but like, absolutely not.
Anything, as long as we get a stream and we can watch the replay, which is not guaranteed at all. High level wrestling events, even in this day and age, you got a happy man out of me.
Yeah,
I'll echo that. BTN is excellent for promoting the sport. Props to them. And ESPN, you got Rock Harrison going to 30 different schools doing all this stuff on his own. And does ESPN, does SportsCenter, does he get a retweet? Does he get anything? No.
They don't care.
He gets nothing. When he's out there on his own trying to promote wrestling on ESPN, kudos
Wrestling
to Rock,
fans
kudos to BTN, no kudos to the rest of ESPN.
they would rather tear down the actual entities that are involved in growing the sport than look at the picture who's actually providing value. Off soapbox. A little soapbox heavy today. Not normally me.
That's all our questions pretty
That's
much.
all our questions.
Except for, someone asked, did PSU pull in back to the best back-to-back recruiting classes in the rankings era?
Who else do they have this class? PJ, Marcus,
Duke Mafia.
Let me
Hinkle.
pull it up.
Correa decommitted. Perry, Dalton Perry's in there. Desmond,
Oh yeah,
Nate Desmond is going there as well.
in the lineup. It's a really good one. We'll look at that. It's Penn State. You've seen them like they'll have a monster class and they'll kind of hang back a class and maybe get one big guy, but this is two back-to-back monsters.
Yeah, last year it was Lillidahl, Ryder, Seeley, the Mirasola brothers, Brock Weiss.
That's a good class. This is a good. I mean, they're going to get a lot of utility from both. So yeah, it's good. I don't know if it's the best back-to-back. They maybe have had better back-to-backs. I'd have to see it all on a list to opine. But yeah,
It's also easier to retroactively determine how good a recruiting class was when they go on to like win a bunch of titles.
exactly. That's a great point too. So we'll see. But yeah, definitely a really, really good one. And it could be accelerating, right? Like with NIL, it just gives every team, every big blue blood team, another weapon to potentially bring guys in. So it could be like their classes are like this every year now.
I will say, well, I don't know. Will Marcus Blaze bring them up to number 1 for 2025? Because right now they're at number 3.
Yeah, probably. Marcus Blaze a huge commit.
That's a big chip. Yeah. We'll talk about that. Thank you guys for tuning in on a special Wednesday edition. Sorry for the late start. Things happen. But make sure you're tuning in. All-Star Classic, Saturday, 7 p.m. Going to be amazing. Sunday, Oregon State. Tyler's going to be there. Kozak's going to be there. If you're at the All-Star Classic, come say hey. Love to meet you. Can't wait to get to Penn State. Fine. I just got the text that I need to check in.
Got to check
flight.
in. Yeah.
Let's check in, boys. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Goodbye.